We have NFL props. Now, yesterday, if you listen, we went over all the quarterbacks. We gave out over-under yardage, who's going to have the most passing yards, passing touchdowns, interceptions. Today, we're doing running backs, just rushing yards and rushing touchdowns, some miscellaneous. They don't have fumbles. They should have fumbles somewhere, right? They have interceptions. Why not have fumbles in there? But the big news coming out late yesterday afternoon, Jimmy G staying with the 49ers. He agrees to a restructured one-year deal, a no trade clause. I think this is a good move for the 49ers. But it also means they don't trust Trey Lance, Harry. I mean, let's face it. That's what they're talking about here. I don't know how much Jimmy G plays, but they're not quite, whatever they're seeing with Trey Lance is not exceptional and not up to par, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know why this is a big deal right now. This should have been decided. I was saying this months ago. You got to keep Jimmy G for reassurance just in case, because what do we really know about Trey Lance? What do we really know about what he's going to do on the field in his first real season of getting? He played a little bit last year, but this is his first year as a real starter. What did we really know about this guy, and how is he going to be able to? What's going to happen when he has that one game, 2 picks, they lose a game they should have, and they're going to call for his head already and have Jimmy G come in? I don't know, but at least he's there for backup, because San Fran still was a top 10 offense last year and a top 10 defense, still a very good team. You got to have Jimmy G for reassurance.
Or insurance, you could say insurance. Reassurance. I mean, reassurance comes with it, but. Parlay Kid, what are you going to say? Yeah, I go back and forth with Jimmy G, just like I go back and forth with Shanahan, whether they're good. Jimmy G was a play, 10 minutes away from winning the Super Bowl, and he was 2 plays away from making another Super Bowl last year. But he can't shut any of these games down is the thing. But as a backup, pretty damn good, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's the best backup. But is that fair to Garoppolo? Is it fair to him? No. 2, if you need him as an insurance policy, then why is Lance even starting? Like, you obviously don't. Then you're saying you don't really believe in the kid, or you're worried that the kid is going to falter. And then, we got Jimmy G. Then Jimmy G should just be the starter. It does.
I think they gave up so much. They gave up so much for Lance. They definitely blew it.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That was an overreach then. Then if they're not willing to trade Jimmy G, or weren't willing to trade him by now, then the Lance pick was obviously an overreach in my book. And,
they definitely need Lance to work out. That's what they're rooting
remorse
for.
with it. And it's not fair to Lance either to have Jimmy G looking over his shoulder the whole time. It's just not a good situation for both guys. They screwed both guys here. It's a great situation for the team, believe it or not. For the team, it's great, but for those 2 individuals, it really isn't fair.
Well, it wasn't going to be worth it for them to cut him. Is the problem? But the money wasn't going to be worth it, so you might as well have the best backup in the league. Now, he might be the best backup in the league, and we asked this on Extra Points a couple of weeks ago. But which backup do you think wins the most games this year? Which one won the most last year? Was it?
It's a good question.
Ravens guy? Who would it have been? I'll look at that for a second for you guys.
They lost a lot. They lost a lot of close games. I don't know if he really won any.
Yeah, they did. I'm trying to see. I guess Saints.
Well, Heineke technically, right? Last year because Fitzpatrick was out away.
Right. How many is that? Yeah. All right. We'll get an answer on that. All right, Brother Bry, go for it. You like Heineke again to have the most wins?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Heineke here. I mean, this is an interesting question. What I would like to really see is I would love to see odds on first quarterback benched for like the next start, right? Not an in-game benching, but I would love to see that similar to how they have the first coach fired, because I feel like there are a lot of quarterbacks who should kind of be on the hot seat kind of early. But obviously injuries change everything, right? A main guy could go down and you could lose here. But I'm going to say Heineke, because again, we've seen what he could do in last year or in the playoff game the year before that. He's definitely, I think, a top 5 backup at the moment. And he might, in all honesty, he might not. I know Wentz is not. You look at Wentz's numbers, and actually they're pretty solid when you look at them. But I don't know if Heineke's much of a downgrade in terms of, Wentz makes so many boneheaded plays. So, and he's had his fair share of injuries too. So he hasn't been able to fully, last year he was kind of healthy, but still hasn't really been fully healthy over 3 seasons. So I would look at Heineke there.
How many does he get? What
I'm going to
number do you
say
think?
the most, we'll say 4.
4. Okay. I think that's what they get. What the most would get. Like you got the Mike Whites of the world. You have who else?
Any backup quarterback. How many wins could they get?
Seattle, Geno Smith had only a few, but they ended up with 7 wins somehow. But all right, Harry, Parlay Kid, go ahead. Who's the best backup in terms of wins?
It depends now. Like okay, so we have to define backup because
not starting week 1.
Right. Yeah. So Zach Wilson might be a great pick for this. Right?
Interesting. Right.
Because he could be back by week 2, 3, and win 5 games for the Jets. Really have a miserable year, but still win 5 games.
It's a little cheating a little bit, but yeah, Zach
right. So that's why I'm not taking. That's why I'm not going to say him, Sal.
Okay.
That's why I'm going to say Kenny Pickett on the Steelers. You and I actually, and this is where my dilemma comes in saying this, is because you and I actually think more highly of Mitch Trubisky than almost anybody else in the media world. I think you and I thought he actually did a decent job in Chicago, got a bad rap, had no talent.
I'm a Trubiscoholic for sure. I'm a Trubisky truther, whatever you want to call us. Yeah.
Right. He might win some games here in Pittsburgh because he's got a pretty good receiving core with him here and a good running game. Mitch Trubisky might win. But if he doesn't, let's just say they start 1-2. They lose at Cincy. They're home versus the Pats, and then at the Browns. If they're 1-2 after 3 games, game 4, home versus the Jets, could be Pickett time. And Pickett himself could win about 5 or 6 games this year. Had a good preseason. I'm not really that high on the kid, but I think there's enough talent around him where he could win some games. And 4 or 5 wins here might be the most for a backup in the league. So I'll say Kenny Pickett on the Steelers.
He's it, by the way. Wow. Heineke did have 7 last year, babyface. He said 7 wins as a backup, and Dalton had 3. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, you're a Parlay Kid. I mean, this is cheating too a little bit because he's the odds-on favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. In order to do that, he would obviously have to win some games as a backup. It's where George Pickens is tied. We're going to go over awards next week, but Pickett and Pickens, both Steelers, both 9-1 for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Wow. That could be fun. Bet both of them and just that was basically what happened with Dak, right? And weren't they side by side for Offensive Rookie of the Year? Dak and Zeke. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, so we got Heineke, we got Pickett. Harry, what's your pick?
How about Trevor Siemian of the Bears? Justin Fields, I swear, I think Simeon's a better quarterback. Fields is either going to get injured, get benched. 58% of his passes last year completed. Only 155 yards a game. Sally, you mentioned Andy Dalton, who filled in nicely when he went down last year, 190 yards per game. Simeon, a 7-year veteran, went to Northwestern. So the Chicago fans might like him a little bit more than Fields if Fields really tanks. And Fields, he also filled in Simeon very nicely in New Orleans last year, where he had 2 wins. He had 11 touchdowns in 3 picks. And just to pick out a certain game, one game where Fields had 7 touchdowns and 10 picks for the entire year, Simeon beat Brady 36-27, where he had 3 touchdowns in that game. And Fields against Brady lost 38-3 with 3 picks.
So how many do you see him getting, Simeon?
It depends. It depends the schedule.
I know it all depends. These guys are all backups. Of course,
I could see him getting 3.
Okay.
Let him have it, Bri. Let him have it.
Well, he said 7 initially, I think, right? When we did this.
Unless Harry just didn't know what you were asking at that point in time.
That's likely too.
We have a problem for this, right? Anyway, because the Bears you had under, right, for season wins.
Yeah, you had them being amongst the worst.
They could land on 4 or 5, and he gets 3.
You had them for the worst record. But yeah, if that happens, Fields got to get benched. He's got to get benched when? Like week 3 or week 4? And you said
injured,
some Bears fans might want Simeon more than Fields.
I think Fields ribs are
is definitely not happening. That has to be.
I think Fields ribs are still hurting.
Well, yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah, from laughing at your take, probably.
Bears fans would have to. I mean, Fields would have to have like the worst 17-game season of all time for them to like.
Yeah, this
Simeon
is the
better
future
than
for them.
Well, was he good last year? Did you guys say that he was going to be great? You guys didn't say he was going to be great. You said he was going to be real good. Was he good last year? No, he wasn't.
So Harry, you're saying the reason why the Bears are going to be bad is because of Fields.
He's the reason. And the receivers are terrible.
Well, then how is Simeon going to win any games?
He's going to bring on new receivers, Darren. It's like an offensive coach brings on his coordinators. He'll have all new receivers.
How did he beat Brady last year, 36-27, when New Orleans had no offense last year?
I mean, that can happen. And
that's one game. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
one game. I didn't see Fields do shit last year.
All right, this is dumb. And by the way, I'm taking similar logic in my pick here. I'm going with Teddy Two Gloves over Tua here. I think he's a serviceable backup. He's not the best backup. Jimmy G is the best backup this year, but kind of the same thing. That game against New England, who knows what happens? I think they lose against Baltimore versus Buffalo. Then they're at Cincinnati, a loss at the Jets. And then all of a sudden you're looking at what the hell's going on with Tua. I think Bridgewater could come in and win 4 or 5 or 6 games somewhere in there. Also like Minshew getting there, Parlay Kid. I think there's a lot going on with Minshew, and maybe he's the man throwing. It's not so much Hurts, but we'll get to Hurts in a second. Nobody says Ritter. I was thinking Desmond Ritter might be. You know, everyone considers Mariota a savior for that Falcons team because he ran for a big first down or some shit 2 years ago. I don't know what the hell he did, but why isn't Desmond Ritter? We got monster odds for him for offensive rookie of the year. I just had it and I pulled it up. Where is it? Offensive rookie of the year. You could get Desmond Ritter, and he's the second quarterback on the list. It's Kenny Pickett, then all the way down to Desmond Ritter at 25-1 for offensive rookie of the year. So that's something to consider. So that takes care of the backups. Let's go over most rushing yards. Like I said, we focused on the quarterbacks yesterday, hit the running backs today, wide receivers tomorrow. Most rushing yards, Jonathan Taylor just destroyed everybody. Now, you might put an asterisk next to it because Henry got hurt and he was on pace to being the leading rusher. But JT plus 450, Henry now healthy 7-1, Dalvin Cook 10-1, Nick Chubb 10-1, and Mixon 16-1. All right, Harry, start with the favorite, Taylor. Obviously, if he puts up numbers like last year, there's no one's getting in his way, probably.
Yeah, last year and just years back, too. 1,800 yards last year, won by almost 600 over Chubb, Mixon, and Harris. 8 of his last 10 games last year, 100-plus yards. And if you date back after his rookie year at Wisconsin, this guy, like, almost 1,800 yards last year, 2019 with Wisconsin, 2,000, in 18, 2,200 yards rushing, in 17, 2,000, over 5 yards a carry, both seasons in the league here. And he's reliable and as durable as they come. Jonathan Taylor's a machine at plus 450. I'm taking him.
Can't argue with it at all, except that it's not too much fun taking the favorite at plus 450 the way
you're right.
Which they get hurt. All right, so you're next up, brother Brian. Henry 7-1. Hard to argue with that too, and especially the value you're getting when he's not number one odds on the board. Yeah.
Well, first off, I can't believe Henry's only 28 years old. It's weird to think of that. And when you look at his career, he really, I mean, I was actually surprised when I look back. I'm like, he's really only been overworked in 2 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. He really had those 2 seasons. And it also seems like, you know, when you see him working out, he works harder than anyone in the offseason. You said before, you know, he led the league in rushing in 2020 and also 2019, and he probably would have won it last year without the injury. He was close, you know, he was on pace for close to 2,000 yards at that point in time. And, you know, if the thing is, if he didn't get injured last year, right, you'd be looking at him right now at like plus 300 or plus 350, right? He'd be right. He'd probably be, you know, a tick higher than Taylor. But you're getting, you know, rightfully so, there's the injury risk at this point in time, but you are getting a nice little bump up in value at 7-1, I think, here for a motivated Henry to get back to where he was.
What are his what I gotta look now for player rushing props? What are his what is his over under for yards here? So wait, it's 1,300.
Yeah, 13. Yep. 13.
So again, Parlay Kid, we talked about this. His over under individual games is not going to be. I'll do some quick math. 80. Right? Right. You'll never get but that's really what it should be, shouldn't it? Like they did this last year with Derrick Henry. Like, yeah, it was always 106 yards is over under, but they had him at 1,539, I think was his over under, which was insane compared to his year before. It's like, holy crap. He had 2,000 yards in 2020. There's an extra game in 2021 and his over under sits at 1,500 and change. and he was about to crush it, and somehow they know he's going to get injured that year. It's so weird with the number, the individual game to game, but the over under.
It's a good point.
Yeah. I don't even know what the point was, but it is weird that the numbers don't add up. All right, Parlay Kid, who are you? Tony Pollard, 75-1, right? That's who we're going with?
Oh, well, something would obviously have to happen to Zeke, even though, man, Pollard, he is dynamic, though, but that's not happening. So, Dalvin Cook here at 10-1 to lead the league in rushing. I was averaged 89 yards per game last year when he played. I was good for 4th per game, and he was 5th in rushing overall with his yardage. We've really always been waiting for this guy to really break out, right, and have like a monster year, because he always has some monster games, kind of obviously like most running backs, has to miss a game or two. I'm banking on him. This is maybe his year, 27 years old, right in the prime of his running back career right now. He's part of an offense that has a great pass game. You have to honor the passing game of the Minnesota Vikings. Even though I'm not sure with Kirk Cousins, but Thielen, KJ Osborne, and obviously Jefferson, who's just maybe the most outstanding receiver in the league. You can't stack the box against this team. Cook really should have a big year. And if he's healthy, he's going to be right here in this mix. I like what everybody else is taking too, but I'm rolling the dice on this being Cook's year. It's going to be a big year for Dalvin Cook.
The only thing is, all you hear about is all those receivers and how they're going to benefit from Kevin O'Connell, right? Being in there, he worked wonders with Cooper Kupp and everything. So I wonder if that affects Cook's numbers at all. But 10-1 is not bad for as good a back as he is. I'm going to go Mixon here. I know I took Burrow for most touchdown passes last year, and now I'm mixing for most rushing yards. So that's 2 long shots. They're definitely both not hitting, and you probably need Taylor or Henry to get hurt to cash. But he was 3rd in the league last year with 12.05, only 50-something yards behind Chubb. And Chubb is 10-1. You get Mixon at 16-1. So, and then, there were hundreds behind Taylor. So, again, not fun to root for injuries, but probably that's what I'm going to be doing here with Taylor and Henry. 12.05 is career high. You talked about Parlay Kid, like this is the crux. This is it. 26 years old for Mixon, probably 3 more good years. Got to expect good totals. 12.05 was his best ever, and I think that's going to go up. And I hate to root for injuries, but for this to hit, that's what would have to happen. All right, most rushing touchdowns, similar numbers out here. Taylor 5-1, Henry 7-1 again, Chubb 10-1 again, Mixon 12-1, a little lower in the touchdowns than he is the rushing yards. Cook 12-1. I'll start us off with Henry. I probably have it wrong. I probably should go, Henry most rushing yards instead. I have Mixon, but 7-1 for touchdowns for a guy who has 55 touchdowns in 4 years. And 13 from inside the 20 each season. He led the league in rushing touchdown. He's a monster in the red zone. He's a monster against 8 or more box defenders. He has 42 rushing touchdowns against when they stack the box with 8 or more. It's insane. I mean, I don't have to convince anyone that he's great when he's on the field. Maybe he wears down in terms of yardage, but he's still the man by the goal line. I'm going Henry 7-1, most rushing touchdowns. You probably should take them both for rushing yards and touchdowns. Harry, you're going opposite of me, so you're going Mixon for touchdowns.
Yeah, at 12-1, he was 4th most in the NFL last year with 13. Had his best season as a pro last year too. I think maybe I got a little more faith in Joe Burrow establishing more drives, more inside the 10 than 37-year-old Matt Ryan for Taylor touchdowns. Inside the 10, it's going to be Mixon a lot. This team is loaded on offense. He had almost 300 carries last year and very reliable too. Only 3 fumbles in his 5-year career. So give me Mixon, take a shot with this loaded Cincinnati offense at 12-1 to have the most rushing TDs.
All right, another 12-1, Bri. You have Cook here. Your brother, the Parlay Kid, has him for rushing yards. You like him for touchdowns.
Yeah, it's funny. I really actually wanted to take Najee Harris here. I thought maybe he'd have a shot, but this Liz Frank injury that he has is causing me some concerns. Also, I drafted him in a fantasy league. Now I'm concerned with that. But I do think Cook has a bounce back year in terms of touchdowns. Last year was low, which I think was kind of a little bit more unlucky. But in 2019 and 2020, he had 29 rushing touchdowns in 28 games. And I do think this Minnesota offense should be very good. Last year, they kind of in the red zone relied on the pass a little bit more. So again, I think that's a little bit unlucky for Cook. And, the thing is, you look at their backup running backs, Madison's fine, but he's not the type of runner who's going to steal carries from Cook. If Cook gets hurt, he'll play. But in general, Madison will get a couple carries a game. But I was wondering, do you guys like any long shots here? I was trying to figure out, like, rushing touchdowns is probably, you probably have a better shot. You probably have a better shot,
right? Oh, you think you do have a better
rushing
shot?
touchdowns than rushing yards, right? In terms of
then yards. I thought you meant versus
receiving.
I think
touchdown, right? Touchdowns, like you could have a random weird year where somebody has 14, I guess, or something like that. But
I was looking at a dumb one would be Lamar Jackson, but what do you need to win this? You need at least 15, right? That's a problem. Or 13 or 14. I don't know.
I was trying to look at that. I was like, some long shots. I guess you could say maybe Akers has a huge year or something like that. I'm like 40 to 1 or something.
It's not going to be Dylan. Yeah.
What about your boy, Brian? What about Justin Fields, Brian? There you go.
For rushing touchdowns.
Well, that's the only way he's going to get touchdown.
15's a lot, though. If that's the number you have
Dobbins,
to hit.
What's Dobbins sitting at, guys?
I think he was looking at him to
25. Yeah, 25.
Yeah, if he's healthy, definitely. The only problem with that is Lamar Jackson's probably going to get 5 of those.
He'll get about
rushing
6,
touchdowns.
right?
Well, he only had 2 last year.
Is that what?
Lamar?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
But he was out a lot.
With Lamar's, is he going to want to run a lot this year? I don't know. I think he's got to get his money.
McCaffrey's interesting. Oh, that's rushing touchdowns, though. Total touchdowns, I would consider that 16-1. But I am going to go with. Did I give my pick already? Oh, Parlay Kid, you have to go here. Yeah. I'm still going with Henry, by the way. In case
I'm taking Damian Harris here of the New England Patriots, Sal. He had 15 touchdowns last year. 15. Right. Patriots like to run the ball inside the 5, kind of come right at you. They don't mess around. They don't have that type of dynamic receiver that you could throw it up to in the back of the end zone like a lot of teams have. They don't have the tight ends they used to be able to do that with. So they like to pound the ball on the goal line. And here's the thing with Harris. He had, out of these 15, he had 14 of these touchdowns in his last 11 games. Mm-hmm. He only had 1 game without a touchdown in his last 11 games. Very conceivable that Harris here goes above this 15, maybe trending towards 16 to 17.
Numbers. Yeah.
And I mean, it's an incredible number for a guy that's going to be on a team that, they kind of like to run the ball. I know they kind of have a good mix, but when they get inside the 5, they like to pound it. That's what they do. They always have a stout offensive line. Like I said, 14 touchdowns in his last 11 games last year. He only went 1 without one. Harris, this is great value. Take it.
Well, it is great value for a guy who had 15 touchdowns, but I caution you, and now we're going to go into miscellaneous running back props where I'm just going to pound every under. And by the way, that's my overall suggestion. Just bet all. I don't know that they would list 32 running backs and wherever you bet, but bet them all under. And 12 of them will be a win by week 10 because of injuries or whatever. It's just a fact of life, and that's for yardage. You could probably do the same for touchdowns. Obviously, problem is, Parlay Kid, is Belichick tends to punish fantasy players who do well. So if you're a Patriots running back or receiver, what you should do is make sure you never fumble and keep it around 60 yards a game, and then you'll play. Because anybody who's had this, and this is just a fantasy concern, and knows that, oh my God, what happened to Damian Harris? He had 15 touchdowns last year. Why is he only getting 6 carries and not by the goal line? So that's why I'm going under 775.5 rushing yards. He had 920 last year. He had 691 the year before. But the Patriots, as much as they like to run, they do it by committee for the most part. They've had some weird leaders over the years. Like Blount had 703. Jonas Gray had 412, led the team one year. Stephen Ridley had like low, mid 700s. And I know some of those were the Brady years, but the point is Belichick mixes it up, and whatever you think he's going to do, he doesn't. And, I know it says Harris is ahead of Ramondre Stevenson on the depth chart, but they think that he's going to pick up some third down carries, maybe a 60-40 workload there. So I'm going to go under 775.5. Parlay Kid. I don't know. Maybe he has like 19 touchdowns, but 400 yards. That could happen too. Might as well stay with you. Might as well stay with you. You have over 7.5 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
For Harris. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yes,
Sal. Did you talk about that already?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. To me, this is a no-brainer though. This number, why is it so low? I don't understand.
They're begging you to take the over. You don't fall for this here.
They're basically saying that Harris is going to get injured this year, because if he doesn't, this is a cakewalk. You're walking into the end zone on this pick of over 7.5. Guy had 15 last year. He's young. He's in his third year. They do like him. Obviously, the thing about Stevenson, right? Stevenson's a very good complementary back to Harris, more of a third down back. Harris is still going to get those like tough yard carries for this team, and he still averaged like 4.6 yards per carry last year. By the way, Sal, I'm pretty sure. I could be off. Did you mention that?
If he had 920 yards, it makes sense. Yeah, I think he's right in there.
Yeah. I think he averaged like 4.6 yards. So he's not your typical like. To get your 3 yards and that's it. Harris over 7.5. Like I said, 14 touchdowns in his last 11 games. How does he not go over this? He might be over this by week 9 or 10, Sal. And you can relax. I think this one is a gimme. Providing if he plays, if he plays 14 games, this is going over.
Yeah,
easily.
It is. It does seem like entrapment here. Half the touchdown totals of last year really feels weird with no injuries lingering. All right, Harry. Also 7.5 touchdowns. We are focusing on running back. So you are going with Jalen Hurts.
I am going to go with Hurts for over touchdowns at 7.5. I'm not all in on Hurts as the Philly quarterback. Well,
good start.
He's a runner here, not a quarterback. He's a runner. Okay.
Well, he's actually a quarterback, but I know he is listed. Yeah.
I'm going over 7.5.
But you're not all in on him, touchdowns. So let's hear how this is going to.
Not all in on him, but I do like him. He got his team to the playoffs. He really knows when to pick and choose. Listen. 7 or more carries in 15 of 16 games last year. Yeah. 4 games last year, he had 2 touchdowns or more rushing in the game. Over 7.5. He had 10 last year. I love this to go over 7.5.
All right.
It's funny. I would like that.
By the way,
I would like that too. It's just a question of who's starting at quarterback for them if he's the running back.
All right. Well, he's going to line up in the backfield, Brian.
He's a better running back than he is quarterback. How about that? And in 2020, he had 63 carries in 15 games last year.
Just say he's a good running quarterback, Harry.
Yeah, you could say that, Harry. That's fine.
Just say he's a good running quarterback.
Babyface, are you any
calling him a running back
on Jalen Hurts? Well, he might actually think he's a running back. As I said, we're going over running backs today, guys. I sent the outline. And he threw a quarterback in there. I don't know. And he's just saying.
I love it that much. I wanted to throw him in there.
Babyface, what happened there? Were you paying attention?
Logic does not exist on these. So if you're looking for logic, you've come to the wrong place, sir.
Want winners? This is where it's at. That's a winner.
All right. I'm going to give you a running back, but he's not a running back, and I'm not even all in on him as a quarterback or a player. It's Hurts over 7.5.
As a quarterback. Not as a running back, I am.
Okay. Brother Bry, this guy is a running back, I think. A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, it's funny. I do like the Hurts one over 7.5, but it's just funny. But yeah, I was looking at A.J. Dillon, eight touchdowns or more. So 8+ touchdowns at plus 200. One of these years, this bowling ball's right. He's going to take the lead role for this backfield. It could possibly be this season. I mean, it could eventually be. I mean, one little injury to Jones, or he could just overtake him. Last year he had 800 yards rushing, 5 TDs. If he increases his total by 3 this season, which I feel like it's pretty likely, plus 200, I feel like is really good value. And you have to. I know Jones didn't have a ton of rushing touchdowns last year, but part of that was Adams, right? It was getting those 1 to 2 yard touchdown passes.
I was just going to say that 3 yard out where he reaches for the pylon is they have to replace that.
Right. That's going away. Right. So I feel like, best bet is for one of these running backs to get a few more touchdowns, but I think eight is very realistic for him. And I thought plus 200 is great value.
Pretty good. All right. I love the unders, and I gave you Harris under, and I'm going to give you Fournette under 7.5 touchdown runs. Boy, there's a lot of players right there in that 7.5 touchdown range. He had 8 last year, but he had 6 or fewer in 3 previous seasons. Again, there's no Ronald Jones, but he's competing with Chad White, the ASU rookie. And, I think he and Keyshawn Vaughn are actually battling for the backup spot. But, they talk about the offensive line is in question. And is Brady going to be able to stay upright and this and that? Brady. How about the offensive line is bad? Can they block? Can they run block? Right? Like, why isn't anyone concerned about that? I am. I'm also concerned Fournette. Are we sure he's not 320 pounds? I mean, he just came in and said, I'm not fat. And everyone's like, okay, that's fine. You're not fat. I don't know. I'm not sure he's in shape either. I love unders for running backs in general. This is another one. I'm going Leonard Fournette under 7.5 touchdown runs. What else do we have? Oh, Parlay Kid. Yeah, this is a popular one. The Connor under touchdowns is popular. People think it was a little fluky how much he got the ball down low, but you like under rushing yards for Connor.
Yeah, under 800 rushing yards here, Sal. If you really look at his last 4 starts last year, including the playoffs, where he had 4 carries for 19 yards. I know they fell behind early, but the previous 3 games before that, 13 for 31, 8 for 39, 15 for 52. Not really a lot of touches there for him. He's really not. I take nothing away. This kid has come back from and done amazing stuff, but. He's only gone over this once in his career. He had last year in a big year, he had 752 yards, right? And that was considered a really big year for him. With really no wide receiver threats. You might say, well, they'll run the ball more. Connors needs to have those receiving threats to run. He's not a really dynamic back. He's to me, a straightforward back. And these teams are going to stack the box. I think he'll struggle to really eclipse last year's numbers at 752. And any type of injury, he cannot go over this. Cannot. Right. I don't even know if the Cardinals are fully sold on him, being that he only had a few games with over 20 carries.
Well, the only thing that scares me with this is there's no Edmonds this year, right? And I think we'll know early, right? Because he's got to make his
Williams,
hay in those
from
first.
The Chiefs was bought in. He's pretty solid.
It's those first few games without Nuke Hopkins that he's going to have to make a difference. So I think we're going to kind of know early on if this is
average 3.7 yards per carry last year. Right. Not great. Not great at all.
Damashek was going crazy about this because this is the one that everybody stuck in the Steelers' face. Like, oh, how do you let him go? But yeah, his yards per carry he was a fantasy, is a good pickup fantasy wise, but his numbers were not better than they were in Pittsburgh, I think, overall. Yards per carry, at least. All right, Harry. Good job. Cam Akers is a running back, and you have him over 849.5 yards.
Yeah, he was injured most of the season last year. Played just one regular season game, but he's back 100%. Sony Michel got 845 yards last year for LA. So Akers at just 23 years old should be able to eclipse that number. In his rookie season, 2020, at 625 yards on just 145 carries. And it's a big if Akers can stay healthy, he might click close to double those carries and get the over 849 with ease with this team that's still very, very excellent on offense.
Yeah, they're very excellent. I don't know. McVay bugs me as much as Belichick does with the running situation. He really does, the way he parcels it out. But a lot of that was due to injury, I would say, for the Rams. So Akers over 849.5. All right, brother Brian. Wow. McCaffrey under 7.5. There's that number again, rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm going to go under the rushing touchdowns here. Look, I don't want McCaffrey to get hurt again, but odds are he probably will. But that being said, right, the Panthers would be smart to limit his carries, especially early in the season, especially short yardage, if they want him to try and stay healthy. When you look at his numbers, he had 15 touchdowns in 2019. But aside from that, 7 was the most he ever had in the 4 other seasons. And last year, in 7 games, I mean, I know some of that was, coming back, so you can't count them all. But only 1 rushing touchdown. So I think they're going to find ways, be creative in getting them the ball to help them a lot. But I don't know. I think short yardage wise, you want to kind of limit that. So I just thought 7.5. Everything kind of has to work out right for him this season to go over that number. So I really like the under here.
All right. It's very exciting. Listen, if we could sum it up, it's take the under for everybody. Please listen to me. Honestly, I talked about if I had like a sports gambling brokerage firm, right? And I had to pool everybody's money and, I could lose it. Certainly I'm one of these 7-team parlays with minus 1500s all over the place. I'll go 6 out of 7. But honestly, this is what I would do. I would honestly spread it out on the unders for the running backs. That would be it.
Why don't you do that, Sal? Why don't you really start a
brokerage? Well, I think I'd have to, Harry, will you look into this for me? Because you worked at a casino, but I think I'd have to live in a state where it's legal. And I unfortunately don't. And it's a coin flip whether that's going to change in November. And I got to figure that out, Harry. But you get an answer for me how we could do this, because that's exactly what I would do. I probably shouldn't even announce it because
I know I'm trying to think could you start some loan? Like, cause even for me, right, that I want to bet every under, but if I bet every under and I put $100 on every under, now all of a sudden, like my balance is like nothing. And I'm just refilled. Right.
But I'm saying if you look at it as a stock that you're not going to touch for 6 months, that's how you have to do it. Yeah.
Right. So I need to borrow money from somebody, right? So you could either lend, right? You could lend. It could be some type of either brokerage or you're a lender, right? And
you're lending. Again, Harry's your guy.